Welcome, everyone. This is our Coaches Tribune podcast. For us, we have legendary coach Jeff Sims. Thank you for joining us, Coach.
Thank you guys for having me. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. Here, so I know Ernie's going to kick off our podcast with a couple of questions he has.
So yeah, Coach. To start off, for our listeners, we might know, but so what are your thoughts just on junior college?
Well, first off, I love football, and I love what football can do for young people. I think it's the greatest team sport because there's, everybody's a little bit different. There's a place for linemen, there's a place for quarterbacks, there's a place for defensive backs, all different body types, all different backgrounds bring guys to football. So then when you talk about the sport of football is where do you get a chance to opportunity to play? Not everybody's going to play in the SEC, and not everybody, so there's different levels. There's NAIA, there's Division II, there's Division III, there's FCS, there's FBS, so where does junior college fall in? Well, where I look at junior college falling is I look at junior college is the opportunity to create an opportunity. So, in most school districts, you got to go to the local high school. Some of us can afford to go to a private school, things like that, but most of us go to our local high school. And that local high school, for whatever reason, may be a football powerhouse, or it may be a place that we play 8-man football. I mean, there's just such a different variety where we're from. We can't make that decision. So when we graduate from high school, now what do? Well, there's 3 types of people that end up at a junior college, in my opinion. The first type is what I call the overachiever, and they want to prove themselves. They went to high school, and their dream was to play at a scholarship level, and they weren't able to obtain the scholarship that they wanted. I have a player named DeMarcus Elliott who starts for the Indiana Hoosiers. Well, out of high school, he was the defensive player of the year in the state of Kansas, and he didn't have a Division I offer. He got a late Kansas State offer, and he was like, well, I'll just go to junior college and play for Coach Sims, and I'll prove myself and create other opportunities. And he did that, and he ended up going to Indiana University. Well, that's what I call an overachiever, or a guy who needs to prove himself. The second type of guy that goes there is a guy who he handled his football stuff. His football stuff was in order, and he could get a scholarship, but academically he's short somewhere. The NCAA has requirements. You have to have 16 core credits. You have to have 10 of those completed by the end of your junior year. They have a sliding scale where your GPA has to meet a certain test score, and you have to meet those requirements to receive a scholarship. Well, we all come from different houses, and we all go to different schools. So not everybody is given the same foundation educationally. And that's one of the cool things about being a coach is that you go all across the country. And I will tell you that all schools are not created equal. Okay, they're not. And so some young people are more prepared for a college education than others. And sometimes that's not their fault. It's just the opportunity they have in front of them. And then also your house. Some people have to take care of the little brother or their sister. Some people have to go home and make their own dinner. Some people have internet at home, computers at home, and some people don't. So when we graduate from high school, if we didn't meet the requirements necessary to accept a scholarship at the institution we want, we can go to a junior college, which are typically open enrollment, and then you go to those junior colleges and you use that skill you have football-wise to play, and now we get our general education credits, and we have the opportunity to get the academic support and work with the college teachers at the community college to qualify for that Division I or scholarship offer we want out of junior college. Then the third type of guy is a guy I call he had a bad night. Okay. Now, why I always said it was have a bad night, excuse me. Why I always said it had a bad night was because the commitment it takes to be a solid college football player and college student, you have to be a good person because the amount of studying, the amount of practicing, those types of things. But, in our society, if in 100 days, 99 you're perfect, and then one night you do something that you're not proud of, it can, with the internet especially, it can cost you for a long time. Internet wasn't around when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. So, if I would have punched somebody, if I would have gotten caught with marijuana when it wasn't acceptable, and if I would have got in a situation that made the newspapers, but I was later found out that maybe it wasn't as bad as what was reported. Those things nowadays with Google will follow you. And so we always felt it was guys that had a bad night. We give them a chance to come to school and use junior college to show people that they're doing the right things. We didn't feel like we had bad people in our program. Did we have players that we brought in to give a second chance that made a mistake? Yeah, and then we removed them from the program. But I just am a firm believer that we all grow up in different places. We all grow up with different opportunities. And when we brought them to junior college, we tried not to judge you for who you were before you arrived, but we tried to judge you by who you were while you were there. And if you took advantage of the education of football, and you came from one of those three areas, you could create opportunities for yourself.
Right. So, Coach, with all those opportunities presented, what is your criteria in accepting a player in your program? Because you already know you want a certain culture to establish, and you just can't let anyone in. So what are the type of players you look for?
Well, and you asked what type of players do I look for? And so everybody would answer that differently. And different coaches have different things, and we're all products of our environment.
Correct.
Okay. And what I would tell you is this, is sincerely, we look for great football players. All right. So if you have the ability to play football, and we feel like you can help our program, I'm going to let you in our program, and we're going to judge you by the way you carry yourself in our program. I don't know how or why you did what you did prior to being in our program. I have young men in my program who got really bad grades in high school, horrible grades. But then when we did research on him and we started looking into him, we found out that his grades were actually really good when he attended school. But when he didn't attend school, he obviously gets zeros and Fs. So that would make his transcripts look really bad. But then when we would go to see him, he wouldn't be at school. We'd go to his house. Well, he was at home taking care of his sister. He was at home, taking care of the family, doing things like that. And, everybody's a little bit different. I've met parents that had their own issues. So those issues bled over to the lifestyle of a high school student. And then when we removed them from that environment, gave them the opportunity to go to college, gave them consistent meals in the cafeteria, gave them a consistent place to live, gave them structure, they were able to blossom. And, everybody comes from someplace different. So you do need to be able to play football, because that's what we are. So we're going to judge you by your ability to play football. And then we're going to put you in a structured environment to become the best student and the best football player you can be.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know, like, doing our research, I know that you've done a great job in turning a lot of programs around. I know that you believe in the discipline, and you believe in structure, basically what you're just saying, just a consistency of structure. Where do you think coaches fail today, in as far as you have some kids that don't make it, you have some kids that just slack off? What do you think coaches can do better at in just an overall?
Well, I'd like to answer that in kind of two-part. What coaches in society can do, because I do think that coaches don't have the same role in society as they used to,
Right.
and I kind of wish they were held in more higher regard than they used to, or than they are today. The first thing is, I would tell you that for any coach to be successful, he needs support. Okay, he needs support from the community. He needs support from the administration, because he can make decisions, but if people don't support those decisions, then it's really hard for you to be effective. I have had some success turning programs around. What's funny though is people see the end product. Sometimes they don't understand. I coached at a college one time, and the first 6 months were terrible. You couldn't get it much done, and we weren't very successful because the administration didn't have the same vision that we had. Well, then, and please understand that the administration I thought were good people, but I just don't think they valued what we valued. And then our administration announced their retirement and was moving on. And then they hired a new administration, and that new administration we were in line with, and we were able to do great things and play for a national championship and produce players that went on to play in the NFL and produce guys that went on to have great careers outside of football and things like that. So I would tell you that I think the keys for coaches is that you have to have a plan, okay? You have to identify problems. What are the problems that you're having in your program and you're having in your community? Now, understand that if I was at College A and I developed a program that was the greatest football program ever, right? Now I'm at College B. What I did at College A might not necessarily work at College B. I have to identify the problems and the issues at the place I'm at. Then we have to put a plan in place. We have to sit down and attack those problems. When attacking those problems, we will adjust our plan and we will perfect our plan, but you have to stick to your plan. Too many coaches either don't plan, don't structure, don't organize, or don't stick to their plan. They're talked out of. They adjust to appease other people. The reality is people think I love football. Okay, I do love football, but what I really love is I love passion. Okay, if you're a passionate musician, if you're a passionate about chemistry, if you're striving to be the best at whatever you do, I'm a fan, okay? But I expect that of people in my program. So, I call practice recess. If you're not excited about going to football practice, we're probably going to struggle being around each other. And I'm either going to try to pull that passion out of you and get you to appreciate and understand what we're doing as a football program, or I'm going to try to push you out of the football program. And people are, what do you mean you're pushing? Well, I don't look at it like I'm pushing you out of football. I feel like I'm pushing you towards your passion, because obviously this isn't what you want to be doing. So I want you to find what you want to do. I think too many people live in the middle, and life stinks in the middle. We need to have great triumphs in life and great failures. And we are in a great country where if you fail, you can dust yourself off and you can succeed. And if you succeed and get comfortable, someone will pass you up. I just wish we weren't, so much in the middle, and we were striving to be great at whatever God put us into us, and we were trying to be fantastic at that. So I would just tell coaches that if you're the football expert, put a plan and be the expert and believe in that plan.
Coach,
Yep.
So you've been to 3 national titles, won one in 2016. What was the process and out of those 3 national title games?
Well, a couple things about the process is I have been fortunate that I played or coached with very good football coaches, right? I think it's important that you get around people that are good at this profession and strive to be good at this profession, and you should have mentors, and you should be loyal to the people that you work with, and you should be striving to make each other better every day. So I worked with or played for very, very successful people. Now, I'm a thief, all right? And what I'm going to do is if I work with you and you do something great, I'm going to learn it. I'm I'm going to learn it from you, and I'm going to honor you by putting it in my bag of tricks, and I'm going to use that in my coaching to be as successful as I can be. So having worked with good people and coached with good people, I have acquired things from other people and have put together what I consider a good plan and what has worked for me. Now, I was talking to one of my coaches today about, him being a head coach one day, and he's worked with me and knows what we do. And I told him, I go, the most important thing is that when you become a head coach is you don't try to be me, is that you try to be you. You have to talk the way you talk, believe what you believe. But if there's 2 or 3 things that you like that we did in our program, steal those 2 or 3 things, and then take 2 or 3 things from another coach and build your football program. I do believe that the number. I don't think there's a certain way to win football games, but I do think there's one thing that's got to be consistent. If you're Nick Saban or if you're Jeff Sims, is that you have to be honest, and you have to be honest about who you are. Coaches will see, or I'm sorry, players will see through coaches that are trying to act in a way to elicit a response from a player to be something to get a certain goal, but that's not truly who the coach is. And I think the players see through that, and I just think you need to be honest to who you are. And for us, we when you talk about the national championships and things like that, is we continue to learn throughout the process, and we continue to learn, what it took and what was successful. And we also were not sad when people didn't fit our way. We wanted to find people that bought into what we did, and we're going to be successful. Listen, we're all different. So you can't expect every program to fit every kid. What we were looking for was the kids and the players and the coaches and the administration that fit our program. And I don't care what your offense is, what your defense is. If you can get a group of people to buy into the same stuff and go in the same direction, you're going to win a lot of football games. You can see it, and I'm not picking on any team or anything, but like the Dallas Cowboys, all right? They have great players in Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper, and they got talent all over the place, but they're not pulling in the same direction. So something's going on in that organization that those people, it's not the offense they're running, it's not the defense they're running. Those people have to come together. Now, Tom Brady went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you can see how an organization that's been down, he went there. They didn't play well in the first game. I think it was the third or fourth game, they had 11 penalties, and Tom Brady has went there and been able to bring everybody together and get on the same page, and they're moving in the right direction and moving forward. I don't know that Tom Brady is the best athlete ever to play football, but I think there's something about him that brings people together in a hard-working environment and gets people to buy in and trust him that if they do what he says, that they'll be successful. I've seen Tom Brady yelling at his teammates, and I've seen him cut. Nobody seems to care that he does that because it leads to success. They only care if you yell at people if it doesn't lead to success, so they don't understand. So, I think it's really at all levels. It's not about yelling at people. It's not about being a snowflake angel. It's not about running the spread offense or the option. It's about being able to bring people together for a common goal. And when you can do that, I think you're successful.
Absolutely. And it's a key point, I think you said, that I think is just a certain consistency of all these teams, all the good teams. They have that one thing, and it all just pulls them together. But so, Coach, I know that you have coached some good dudes like, Jason Pierre-Paul, mostly like South Florida guys. Who's been the best player that you've ever coached?
That I'm glad you asked that question, because I think for the people that are watching your podcast, I think it's a good learning lesson.
Mhm.
The best football player I've ever coached is Andre Cyrus, right? Andre Cyrus is from Long Beach Poly High School and is from Southern California.
Right.
Now, why I think it's a good learning lesson is I've been fortunate that I've coached 59 NFL football players,
Totally.
and my players have made $221 million in their careers, right? The thing about it is Jason's not even the best defensive end I've ever coached. Okay. Um, I've coached a lot of talented people, but it's the people that are willing to do what they need to do on a daily basis, right? It's really daily wins. When Jason came to play for me at that point in time, he had not graduated from high school. He had only passed 9 college credits at a previous community college, and we basically had 1 month to get him eligible. And at first, when you hear those things, you would think that Jason was an issue, like a lot of other guys that I've coached that happen to be issues. Jason wasn't an issue. Jason was a ball of energy, right? And that ball of energy had to be structured. And here's part of the deal. Jason's a guy who smiles a lot. And so it's hard to be hard on him, okay? Because he'll make you laugh and he's kind and this and that. But we saw that if we could get him to do certain things, that there's this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for him. And so sometimes we were very hard on him and we were very structured and we were very disciplined on him. And that forced him to get his high school diploma, that forced him to fix some off the field issues, and that forced him to buckle down and concentrate on his schoolwork so he could get eligible that year. All of which he did. We cut no corners. He spent hours studying, putting in the time. He is not an unintelligent guy. He's a very intelligent individual, and he's a very hardworking individual if you direct that energy in the right way. And so we did that, and then he played for us. And when he was playing for us, and sometimes he wouldn't do what he was supposed to do or wouldn't reciprocate the effort we had put in with him with the effort we wanted on the football field. And we coached him in a way that he understood that even though you're the best player out here, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you won't play. And so that brought out another level of talent in him, and he did very well. And then he ended up graduating and able to go to South Florida and was a first-round draft pick. Levante David is very similar, but in a different aspect. Levante is a guy that every single day does everything right, does it 100%, and is a football savant. And people doubted him. And because, you understand now if you're a freshman and you do everything you're supposed to do for 365 days, you've done everything right for 365 times. You do it for your redshirt freshman year, now you've done it 730 times. Do it for the next year, now you've done it for 1,095 times. And so Levante just kept adding wins to his column. And now he's 8-9 years in the NFL. And I'm going to tell you that every day is a win for him. Every day is totally focused on being the best football player you can be. And he has took himself from being a good high school football player, one of the best football players in the world. And a guy like Andre Cyrus, God put his hand on. Andre's the best football player I've ever seen. But also sometimes, just because I can run fast or jump high or I'm better at something than you, that doesn't necessarily mean I like it, okay? Doesn't mean it necessarily it's what I want to do. One time I said to Andre, I said, if you just do what you're supposed to do academically, University of Tennessee's got a scholarship for you. And he looked at me like I was the dumbest person he'd ever seen in his life. And I learned so much from him. Now I bring up Andre, and I hope nobody thinks I love Andre. I may have learned more from Andre Cyrus than any player I've ever coached because he was so talented. But I thought because he had these talents that he should take a certain path. Well, that's not the path he wanted to walk. And so, I told him one time, if you just do what I tell you to do, take care of your grades, you're going to get a full ride to the University of Tennessee. He looked at me like I was a dummy and said, Coach, why would I want to go to Tennessee? I'm from Long Beach. Now think about that.
Yep.
You're from Long Beach, California. Why would you want to leave all your friends to go somewhere that the only reason they're bringing you there is because you have something that they want?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody looks like you. Nobody talks like you. Well, but you can get an education. Well, school's not for everybody, and it's not what everybody wants. I don't know if you guys follow magicians, okay? But there's the magicians Penn and Teller, okay? Well, Penn Jillette is 6'7", right? He hates sports, all right? And I've read about him, and he says he hates sports because he's 6'7" and big. So all his life, everybody tried to make him a basketball player. But he don't want to play basketball. Just because I'm 6'7" don't mean I'm a basketball player. So Andre was the best football player I've ever seen. But I also learned the most from him. And what I learned from him was just because I can do it doesn't mean that's where my path in life is. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I told you earlier that I like people who like passion. Being a great football player doesn't make you special. What makes you special in our society is being great. Right. So find what you're great. Be the greatest principal. Be the greatest fireman. Don't be average.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that because so we're out of South Florida, and
Okay.
I've been coaching high school football for 13 years here in Miami-Dade County. And it's funny because, we have that almost that same situation when it comes to, players that understand, okay, they're willing to compete, they're willing to anything. But if you tell them, hey, we have a offer for you here in Dubuque, Iowa, or whatever, I think they would go and do it. But now, little by little, if you have the opportunity to do it, like to have multiple offers, they'll be like, nah, I just want to stay in the state of Florida, or instead of expanding and going out more, they just, I'll just stay in Florida. It's just the level of comfort. They'll go Florida State, Miami, so they don't want to pass any borders like that. So that's why some coaches get a little iffy for South Florida kids that, all right, if we bring them, are they going to leave the next semester because they get homesick? It's February, January, and they're in 8 feet of snow, and they're like, what the hell did I get myself into,
Well, I will tell you that I've coached all over the country. I coached in Florida Atlantic,
Mm-hmm.
and I coached in Indiana. And everybody thinks playing college football, oh, that'd be awesome and everything. But think about it this way. So let's say you go to Boynton Beach High School, and
Right.
you get a scholarship to Indiana, right? Well, that means that you got to move from Boynton Beach to Bloomington, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And you move to Bloomington, Indiana. And by the way, you don't know anybody there, right? You're going up by yourself, right? Also, so your family's going to visit. Well, when are they going to visit? Well, they want to see you play. You know how much a hotel costs in Bloomington, Indiana on game day? Now, during the week, it's a normal price, but they know that there's 100,000 people going to be there on game day, so prices are jacked up. Your parents got to fly a plane. They got to get in a rental car. They got to do all these things. And if they don't come, when the game's over and them 100,000 people leave, you don't have anybody hugging you after the game and stuff like that. Being a college football player is awesome, but it ain't easy.
Right.
Okay? A lot of work to it.
I agree.
Coach, so you've been a coach for a long time and know a lot. So I'm asking, who was the guy that taught you a lot? Which coach you learned a lot from? Who was like your mentor?
Well, my mentor is a guy named John Frangoulis, and John Frangoulis is a high school coach right now. Okay, and my point in saying that is when you look for a mentor, you need to find someone who's willing to pour into you, right? We could all maybe go to Alabama and work with Nick Saban, but if we're just watching Nick Saban every day, are we learning from him? Is he pouring into us? Or are we just there as a fly on the wall. And here's the deal. Sometimes it's the why that you need to know. Like the three of us could go to Alabama and hang out there a year, and we could learn a lot. But when Nick Saban does something, is there going to be an opportunity to go, well, why did you do this?
Right.
Okay. I don't know that there's time for him to tell us the whys. All right. I was fortunate that I met Coach Frangulis as a young person, and we're from the same area. And so throughout my career, he's poured into me. He's inspired me. I've wanted to live up to expectations. I've kind of wanted to prove to him. And, I remember one time that we won a championship, and I called him, and he was like, well, now you got to do it again, because, anybody can do it once. Man, I can't keep this guy happy.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's important that you find people that pour into you. I do think that you have to be self-motivated. You can outwork people. I will tell you that you're a product of what you do. So if you're playing video games, you're preparing to get good at video games, right? If you want to be a football coach, look, Levante David is so good because he spends all his time during football. I don't know if you asked Levante who was running for president, if he could tell you. And I mean, that's not a crit. Like Levante, who's running for president, right? I don't know that he could tell you both candidates, all right, unless it was fed to him or something, because I don't think he's interested. I think he's interested in what's the offense of the team that he's playing next running, and he's obsessive. I bet you Bill Gates is obsessive about computers, and I bet you, I saw something one time that said when Beyonce makes an album that sometimes she forgets to sleep and eat for 2 and 3 days, right? Because she's so into it. That's what greatness is. I don't know if you ever saw a TV show called Making the Band.
I remember
There's
MTV.
Yep, MTV Making the Band. Well, P. Diddy, all these people would be in line to try to be in the show Making the Band. And you'd interview them, and they'd be like, I'd do anything to be on this. Well, then they'd get to the group of people, and then they'd finally meet P. Diddy, and P. Diddy say, y'all will do anything, huh? And he goes, well, you guys don't understand. You guys see the concerts and the money, and that's what you think it is. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this. And he goes, so your first task is I want a piece of cheesecake. You got to go to such and such and get me this cheesecake. Well, literally, if P. Diddy would have told me that, I would have jogged to the place and been happy to get the guy some cheesecake for the opportunity. But there were people that 10 minutes into being on the show, they were already complaining. They were, this ain't what I signed up. Look, when you are trying to be great at something, there's a lot of things that you have to deal with that you didn't sign up for to be great. And you have to let your passion and your desire to be great overwhelm any of the negativity and stuff. So Coach Frangulis was my mentor. I think everybody should have a mentor and somebody holds them accountable. But at the end of the day, what you do is what's going to determine how good you are at it.
So for coaches who are trying to get into the profession, can you explain to them what is a normal day for you? Time up and time in at home.
Okay, well, first off, I do, again, we talked earlier, I think there's a difference in levels.
Right.
Okay? And when I say levels, what I mean is there's different, but I think there's I think you should consciously be a different coach if you're a college coach or you're a high school coach. Okay. Right. In high school, I think every decision you make should be based on the players. I think that you should do what's best for the young people. You shouldn't do what it takes to win. Now, if you do enough good things for young people, it'll attract to your program and you'll eventually win, in my opinion. But in college, you make every decision on what's best for the football program. You do what it takes to win. And I would tell you that if you're a college football coach, you need to decide that football is your lifestyle. Okay, it's not your job. You guys asked about my mentor, Coach Frangulis. Well, one of the things Coach Frangulis taught me is I don't wear a watch. Okay, I rarely know what time it is, and what I know is what things I have to accomplish that day. So if I have a 2:00 meeting, what that means in my mind is this afternoon I have a meeting. So I know when we get to afternoon, okay, what time's my meeting? Like I got to handle those things. I have a task list. So I will tell you that there are days that I have 10 things to do and I accomplish all 10 by 1:00. And if I do, that's a great day. And then at 1:00, I can go do what I want to do. I could go eat lunch with a friend or go home and hang out with my family or do whatever. But if I have a task list and it takes till 3:00 in the morning to do it, then I'm going to do it till 3:00 in the morning. I believe in completing everything you have to do that day. I don't like to come in with things from the day before, but it's a lifestyle. It's 365 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're always available to your players, you're always available to your coaches, you're always available in recruiting. There's no excuse. That's what it is. And so, but for us right now, a typical day is, I have a bigger staff as a NCAA coach. So I have 19 people that work for me. So we can spread out different tasks and things like that. So, our program is we're lifting at 6, 7, and 8 in the morning. And then we also lift at 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30 at night. So our guys are getting 2 lifts a day right now. And then we have academics and we have those types of things. So like I have 2 academic coordinators that they're in here from 8 to 5. But if I have a guy who's got a late test, they'll do that. I have 11 position coaches that are here throughout the day. But look, if you're from South Florida, Eddie Brown, who has been a high school coach down there and went to Miami Central, and he's Antonio Brown's father. And Eddie coached for me. Eddie might have spent the least amount of time of all my coaches in the office. Eddie wasn't in the office a lot, but at the end of the day, he usually accomplished the most. Okay. So if you're in the office for 12 hours, but you don't accomplish anything, and I'm in the office for 2 hours and I accomplish a lot, that's better than being in there. Now, I do believe that you have a scoreboard and we're always competing. And if me and you were on the same staff, every day I try to kick your butt. I would try to do more things better than you, and then I would tell you about it. And the reason I would is that I'm hoping that you would raise your game and try to beat me too. And then rising tides raise all ships. We're oh man, I went out and recruited this guy. I got this new player coming in. Well, then the next day you're trying to go get one too. And now we have a bunch of great players. Or oh man, my wideout, he got an A on his test. Well, now you want to, my running back, he got an A on this test. Right. Like we want to compete with each other all the time. So I would tell you that. Now, if you want to get into coaching, here's the number one thing that I'm telling you. You have to be willing to be broke. You have to be willing to not have money. All right. And I mean broke. A 7th grade teacher is going to make more money than you. All right. Now, can you become a millionaire doing this? Absolutely. All right. But that's the outlier. Okay. And if you can and do, then we're going to high five you. But literally, I have been offered the most money I've ever made, all right, as a football coach. I have been offered double that to work outside of football. And I considered it for about 9 weeks. And my wife wouldn't even talk to me about it because she thought it was a waste of time. She's like, why are we even talking about it? You're not going to do it. I'm like, that's a lot of money and, a lot less stress. And I should do that and blah, 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 and this and that, blah. But at the end of the day, when I had to pull the trigger, I couldn't do it. I love the relationships. I love working with the players, and so I would tell you that I heard this a long time ago. If you could do something other than coaching and be happy, then you should do it. You should only coach if this is the only thing that you can do. And I mean that. Like, I can do other things. I just ain't gonna be happy. And I may not act happy as a football coach, but I would tell you, uh, football and my wife on the worst days with them, I'd rather be with them than on the best day doing something else.
Good. And
So I'm a big Last Chance U fan, and you as a coach coached a lot of games. So I always wanted to ask you this. So you going against Independence, was that one of your favorite all-time wins?
No, not at all. And what I mean by that is you know, first off, it's a television show, all right, and I don't mean that as a negative to it. What I mean is they're going to try to create certain things. But the first year that we were on Last Chance U, for us it was a surprise. Now we knew Last Chance U was there, and we knew what was going on, but we hadn't experienced it, so we didn't realize when we pulled up that there was going to be, multiple cameras on our bus. We didn't realize that when we went out onto the field that day that they had decided that we were going to be a big deal game. Now looking back, maybe that was naive of me. We were the defending national champions, and they had a TV show and stuff, but maybe that's a compliment to Jason Brown and the coaches that he had there and the players that he had there at that time. Was that's how bad Independence had been. Was you never really gave Independence an extra layer of thought, okay? And so the administration and Coach Brown and his coaches, they did a good job of turning that around. So when we showed up, they were ready to win the national championship that day. It was like we had the title belt with us, and if they beat us, they got to keep it. Right. And so they came out playing extremely hard, and we started slow. And so then we had to fight our way back that first year, and we got to where we were going down on the last drive to try to win the game, and they were able to stop us. We didn't perform, and we didn't get it done. And looking back as a coach, I would say I didn't prepare my team at the level that they needed to be prepared for that game. And they beat us. But then the next year, we knew what we were getting into, okay? So, I would tell you that in my coaching philosophy, we usually take things one game at a time. We usually try to not make games about our opponent. And we try not to make any one game the biggest game ever, okay? Because we want to have a consistency that, look, on Mondays, this is how we work. On Tuesdays, this is how we work. Then we show up Saturday, and we're the team. We do our work. It doesn't matter who we're playing. Well, the second year that we played on Last Chance U, we scrapped all that, and we really told the coach, we told the players, I said, now listen, if you lose this game, it's going to be on television for life. Yep. I said, so you need to get your mind right. And what I think happened, in my opinion, is the first year of Last Chance U, nobody knew what they were getting into. So Independence had talent and coaches, and they were ready for everybody as they came in. And it was a new experience for everybody. But then the second year, they went 9-2 the first year. Then the second year, they went 2-9, okay? But the second year, every week they were playing a Super Bowl, because now our team knew, all right, if you don't play well, they're going to talk smack about you, and it's going to be online and all these things. So if it was our team or another team, every week those kids were coming in playing for the Super Bowl. And for Independence, it's hard to play 11 Super Bowls in a row. Right. And so I think that was tough. As far as us winning, no, it wasn't one of the greatest wins, ever. I would tell you that in my career, there's 2 wins that mean a lot to me. And they weren't national championship games. I would tell you that when we won the Jayhawk Conference Championship at Fort Scott Community College, beating Butler County Community College, Butler had won the league 7 consecutive years. They were the pinnacle of junior college football. And I had been hired at Fort Scott, and people told me it was a terrible job and you can never win there. And Levante David and Jasmine Hopkins and a lot of tremendous football players came to Fort Scott, and all they did was work extremely hard. And they built a football program that went undefeated, and then they beat Butler 2 times in 3 weeks when nobody had beaten Butler. And we beat them in the mud, and it was cold, and it was rainy. That's probably the greatest win because it felt like we had climbed a mountain. And then personally, when I was at Indiana, we beat Mizzou at Mizzou. It was the first time Indiana University had beaten a ranked SEC team. And I'm from St. Louis, and we had 24 family members there. And for a guy from St. Louis to go to Mizzou and beat Mizzou, who I had grown up watching, and your family was able to come and stuff like that, it just meant a lot to me personally. So as a team, the Butler County win at Fort Scott, and as an individual, beating Mizzou were the most satisfying wins to me.
You know, it's funny that you said that the television show and all stuff, and I've seen the prior interview that you had, and I agree. A lot of assessment, they can paint a certain limelight on you. They can just edit, cut here, and just develop a storyline behind it. But the one thing that I would say is you were fired up after that victory because I felt that coming in you didn't know what to expect, but then the second time around it was just more of let's get it going and just compete. And what would you say after that victory? Everything that.
Well, what I would say is that look, it's no secret I'm a fiery guy. Okay, that's not a secret and stuff. I do think I live on extremes. Okay? I don't live like this, and I like it. And people may not like it. And you know what? You don't have to like me, and I don't have to like you. I actually respect you more if you don't like me, and we're just, hey, you do your thing and I'll do my thing. What I don't like is people who are two-faced or this or that. We're all different, and we all come from different places. And I would tell you that if you don't like me, I'd be willing to listen to why you think what you think, if you'd be willing to listen to why I think what I think. And so a couple things about the television show. I think it's awesome. I love junior college football. I would challenge and beg somebody to do a show similar to that. But I think the people who did Last Chance U, they didn't go to junior college. They didn't, they're not from where some of these kids are from. And I think they were honest about what they were seeing, but I don't think they understand that life. Okay. Here's some, Jason Brown and I are not friends. Okay. But I've known him for 20 years, and we were friends at one time. Okay. Why we're not friends is because I don't believe that he's honest about some of the things that he says. Okay. But I do know who Jason is, and I do believe his heart's in the right place. And I do believe he cares about players, and he's trying to do what's right at the moment in time. And I believe that being the head coach at Independence Community College is an extremely hard thing to be. 2 people applied for that job when he applied for it. Okay. It wasn't like people want to criticize him. Nobody else wanted the job. I mean, sincerely, one other guy wanted that job, and I know who that was. All right. And by the way, that guy is a good dude too, but he ain't no angel. He ain't got no perfect life, because you don't go to be the head coach at Independence Community College because you have 50 opportunities. You go there because you want to create an opportunity. Now, the thing about the show is I believe that it is being shown through the eyes of people who have never experienced that. If you notice something, if you watch the show, the players don't say bad things about Jason. The administration doesn't say bad things about Jason. The people that were dealing with him on a daily basis, they actually understood and could deal with him. Now, people that dealt with him on the fringe or people who went against him didn't like him. Okay. Now, my situation with Jason is I did hire him at Garden City. And he says why he left, and that's not true. That the story he projects is just not accurate. Now, we go round and round about that, but the reality is he went to Independence, and I think he did the best job he could. And the reality is he got a lot of kids out of there, and they won a lot of football games. And he may have made some mistakes, but I'm going to tell you that he saved some lives too. And that's where I'm talking about living in extremes. All right. I'm happy that he saved those lives, because if he didn't, somebody would have went in there and lived in this realm, and they wouldn't have caused any problems, but they wouldn't have saved no lives. So, but when you watch the show, okay, I wish we could get a show like that with some people who kind of understand what that lifestyle's like and things like that, and what it means to be there. But like when we argue at the end of the show, that's like a 4-minute part that was over a 30-minute time. Okay. So they don't show that between the time I shook hands with Kiyoshi, all right, I shook hands with Kiyoshi, and then they see us arguing. All right. Well, they don't show that in between there, me and Jason Martin hugged and talked about the game and things like that, because Jason used to coach for us, and he's my friend. All right. And they don't show that stuff. Also, don't misunderstand now, like, we want people to watch the show. Okay. So you want to have some stuff, and the reality is nothing ever happened. There was never a fight. There was never, like, we all know what's going on. We all know how it is. Jason's got a little bit of WWE in him. Okay. and he's promoting, and he's bringing, by the way, isn't it? Nobody in the world cared about Independence Community College, and nobody in the world paid attention to Independence Community College until that cat started woofing.
Yep.
So he at least got people to look. And do I agree with everything he did? Absolutely not. But do I condemn everything he did? Absolutely not. I'm gonna give you a quick example. And it's not about Independence, but let's say we have a player, okay? And this is a real situation that I've dealt with in my past. And so you have a player who he messes up in the dorms, okay? And now he goes to the conduct committee. And all these people on the conduct committee, they're nice people. They're good community people, all right? And they read their book, and this kid who's got no parents, got no money, who, did not have a great foundation educationally, but he does have a talent football-wise. So we're using that talent to get him to college, and we're going to trick him into an education. We're going to use our structure in football to get him to go to class, to get him to do all these things, but in that process, he's learning. Like, he's coming from a tough neighborhood. He's coming from a tough life. And so, like, the first month he's on campus, he gets busted for smoking in the dorms. All right. Now, that's terrible. You can't smoke in the dorms. That's awful. I get that. But where he came from, everybody smoked.
Right.
All right. I've had players say to me, they failed drug tests. They would be in my office, and I'd be wearing them out. And they drop their head and go, "I'm sorry, coach, my family visited this weekend." Like, they weren't out smoking with the people in school when it was them in school. That was a safe environment. But they grew up in an area where that was acceptable, and that was what everybody did. And so you take them from that environment, and then in the first month, you just expect them to be perfect. Well, so the kid messes up. Then he goes on probation in the dorm. So they give him another chance. Then, he's going through the semester, and he gets in an altercation or argues with his roommate or this or that. Well, now that's 2 strikes. All right. So now he goes in front of the board, and the board says, these are good people. The board says, we're kicking you out of the dorms. So now they kick him out of the dorms. He's got no financial help from home. He's got no life skills to live in an apartment with no dishes and no grocery shopping and no car. He's basically set up to fail now. All right. Where me, if I'd have caught him smoking, if he'd have been acting up in the dorms, I would never kick him out of the dorms. But I might call him names sometimes. I might run him. I might, we might write sentences for hours, but I'm going to make sure he's fed. I'm going to make sure that he's housed. I'm going to make sure that he has the opportunity to go to class and get an education. And what I'm trying to do is get him from here to here. But people are like, oh, he's so hard on those guys. Well, I would tell you, you not cursing at me and you not up-downing me, but you kicking me out on the street is way more brutal than you chewing me out, you making me get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but you making sure I eat, make sure I live, make sure I have an opportunity to get education. And I think sometimes people blanket themselves in manners rather than really trying to save some young people's lives. And, I would tell you that while Jason Brown makes a lot of mistakes, he also saves a lot of lives. And I think there's somewhere a happy medium in there. And I would hope that somewhere I fall in that happy medium. I have some bad days, all right, that if you just took a picture of that day, maybe that's not exactly, the picture you want to show to everybody. But I promise you that every single day that I get up, I do everything I can to help our players be the best students, best football players they can be. Because you asked about me, well, Coach Frangulis did that for me. I was tricked into an education, right? The ability to catch a football has paid for, at minimum, 6 degrees in my family and may go up 9 to 12 because the reality is I have 3 college degrees. My wife actually has 4 college degrees, and all of those were paid for through football. I got to go to college because of football. Then my wife got to get her education because I worked at universities. And so, I wouldn't have went to school if it wasn't to play. If you just said just go to school, I had no interest in that. All right, I'd have got a job. But at 18, 19, 20 years old, we need to use football. We need to use activities to get young men into school, to show that they can do schoolwork and really try to save lives. And I think it's more important now than ever because our young men need an outlet. And I believe that football can be that outlet in a lot of ways.
So, Coach, can you tell us a little bit more about your actual program that you're at now, and what would it? How would one get recruited to there? Like, do they send their film to Jump Forward, or because I know a couple of guys in South Florida will watch, a couple of high school coaches will watch that there. So, can you just tell us more about your program and all that?
Okay, a couple things. I'm at a Division II school. I'm at Missouri Southern State University. We're in what's called the MIAA conference, which some people say is the best Division II conference. And when you say that, maybe when you say that you're saying your teams are better than the teams in the Gulf South or the Lone Star. That I'm not willing to say that our players are better. What I'm saying is I think the commitment level in the MIAA is high. We have big coaching staffs, we have good facilities, and so there's a lot of commitment level in what we do. At the Division II level, you have 36 scholarships that you can break up. Now, what's different is at Division I, you get a full ride. Everything's paid for. Right? It doesn't matter if you're in state, out of state, all that. But at our level, there's out-of-state tuition, in-state tuition, there's neighboring states, those things. And our scholarships are all based off of that. I would love to have Florida guys on our team, but they do come from an out-of-state tuition. So you either need to be a young man that can afford to go to school, which we have some guys from Florida because we're still affordable, okay, versus other states and other opportunities.
Right.
Or you need to be a guy that gets some Pell Grant and stuff like that, so we can package some things together to give you the opportunity. What I will tell you is that I played Division I football at the University of Tulsa, and when I was there, the experience of being a Division I football player in 1990 is very similar to what we're offering guys at the Division II level in 2020. You know, we have strength coaches and academic advisors, and we have post-workout meals, and so it's a big deal. And we've had a lot of professional football players come through here. Probably the most famous two right now are Brandon Williams, who plays for the Ravens, and then Rod Smith, who's an NFL Hall of Famer, played for us. And so the opportunity is here. If you're ever interested in being recruited, it's all about Huddle, man. So, you know, send us your Huddle links, and we'll take a look. We have a coach on our staff who was quarterback at Florida International and is from Jacksonville, Jake Medlock. And, you know, so he usually looks through our Florida guys and helps us identify the right guys. We're looking for the right fit. We want all football players to go to the right school for themselves.
Right. Awesome. That's good. Ernie, you got anything?
None, Coach. Just thanks for coming here, and I really appreciate that. And Fish said hello. Fish.
Oh, Fish is the dude right there now.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you guys, though, but that's why I answered you guys. Like, you know, that's what coaching's about. There's going to be a day when you guys are doing big things, and I'm gonna want to talk to you. So, that's just keep working hard, man. You know, you can't outwork people in this profession, and look for coaches that you like what they're doing and follow their way. But always be the best version of you, and I think you'll be successful.
Absolutely. And I really agree, like what you're saying too, a lot of aspects of it. I just this is my second year. I'm at a Catholic private school here in Miami-Dade County. It's called LaSalle High School.
Yeah.
And what you're saying about identifying issues and things like that. But I was at another school, had more money, but now I had to grind harder. You know, now I have to do fundraisers and what you're saying about just the easy thing is just kicking the kid out. But the hardest thing is just little by little pouring into that kid's life, disciplining him, but at the same time too, making sure he has a future available for him, you know, and
Absolutely.
And I completely agree on that assessment of it. I've coached in the public school level that you saw kids that didn't eat and you had to look out for them and make sure they're in class and just all aspects of the world. But coaching is one of the best professions that you can really impact society in young men. And it's just a constant evolving, and we have to evolve. If not, especially with kids now, you know, they're all social media driven. It's more sensitivity, and that's what I'll see it as. So
I will tell you this, that, you know, some people don't think, oh, you're hard on guys or this or that. The difference between discipline and harassment is this. Is harassment, there's no way out. Discipline, there's a way out. So when you're disciplining your player, you know, how does he end the discipline? Okay. You know, if a guy misses class and if a guy misses class and then you take him out and run him, but you're making up the run or he didn't know missing the class equaled that run, to me, that's harassment. Okay. But if I say to you, all right, listen, we need to go to class every day. And you go, yes, sir. So you're going to go to class every day. You say, yes, sir. So we agree we go to class every day. Yes, sir. Okay. Just to keep you focused on that, I want you to know that if you miss class, you're going to have to do 10 100s. Okay. Oh, well, that's hard. Well, no, it's not, because you'll never have to do them because you're going to go to class every day. All right. But if you don't go to class, then we're going to do them. So then he doesn't go to class. Then you do the 10 100s. But then when he's done with them 10 100s, it's over. You don't discuss it with him more. He paid his price. If he misses class again, well, now he gets another 10. All right. There's ways out. Harassment is reactionary discipline. And I believe as long as things are laid out and everybody knows up front, then I think you're actually disciplining your players, and we're teaching teaching each other to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Coach, thank you for your time. We greatly appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. Anything I can ever do for you, let me know, okay?
Awesome. You have a good one.
You
Yeah,
too, bro.
everyone.
Yep.